Why is it that it is now that all these old efulefus that have tried to sustain Nigeria all these years, why is it that it is now that you people are speaking up? Well, thank God you are all speaking up. Now there is this video interview from Noble Nigeria, a Biafra interviewed Wole Soyinka, and please watch and see what Wole Soyinka had to say about Biafra, about Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. It will shock you. Now watch.
Well, the first thing I have to say is that I said at the time, and this was what got me into serious trouble, because they felt that by making such statement, in fact, it was singled out. By making such a statement, I was trying to demoralize the federal side and actively promoting the Biafran cause. When I said, and I wrote, I said, you cannot defeat Biafra. I said, and people thought I was merely talking of the, they took a very simplistic approach to understanding that. They thought I was talking about the battlefield, on the battlefield. Well, that was involved as well. Because when the people are determined, they are willing to sacrifice anything to preserve their identity. When they feel they are on a righteous cause, it's difficult to defeat them.
Yes.
If there's any, shall we say, military defeat, it's only temporary. The real issue remains unsolved. I mean, that's a lesson of history all over the world.
Yes.
The Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka, released a big statement yesterday. You can't defeat Biafra. He was referring to the federal government of Nigeria that the concept of Biafra is not defeatable. He made this statement during his interview with the Noble Nigeria YouTube channel. And he went on to say that the federal government don't have right keeping Nnamdi Kanu in custody because he was kidnapped from Kenya. We are going to deliberate into that and what it means to Nigerian government. But before we go into that, how many of you remember this senator who stood on the assembly floor of the Senate and said that his wife, as the appeal court president, that he uses his wife to do favor to his colleague when they lost election?
Particularly my wife, whose freedom and independence I encroached upon while she was in office. And she has been very tolerant and accepted my encroachment and extended her help to my colleagues.
Distinguished, please, I don't think this is a good idea, go in this direction. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea, please.
This is the video that so many people don't want to talk about. This is the video that even the federal government, the judiciary, the Nigerian Bar Association, nobody wants to discuss anything like this. You know why? It reflects what is going on in the judiciary. And you may be wondering why Nnamdi Kanu has not been released, why other people have been released, why everything is going on like this. This is the kind of thing that is going on in the Nigerian judiciary. However, that is not the purpose of this video. Let us go into the main deal.
It's a mistake keeping Nnamdi Kanu in prison, I believe. To have, in fact, kidnapped him. There's no other word in the first place.
That's true.
He had a right to pursue his cause anywhere he wanted. He was never accused of physically bombing any place, or killing any place. Language, yes, was incited, no question at all about that. But you don't arrest, you don't kidnap people. Buhari seemed to have an obsession with kidnapping people. That seemed to be his trademark.
Modus operandi.
It's like couldn't fulfill himself unless it put somebody in a crate and brought them back. And I think that, politically speaking, if they have any real charges against him, well, since he's in their hands, they should try him. All these technical postponements, delays, these tactics of just of avoiding the basic issue, for me, it's just counterproductive.
The purpose of this video is to educate the masses that Nnamdi Kanu ought not to be in detention because the federal government feel that they can keep him perpetually there, not remembering that what he was fighting for is his fundamental human right of self-determination. Please, I want you to support this YouTube channel, The Noble Nigeria. After this video, you can go and type it there and subscribe to his channel, because I believe that Nigeria media houses are not doing enough when it comes to the issue of injustice in Nigeria. Because when one is attacked, when one's right is violated, everybody keeps quiet. The next time it could be you. So I believe that the media houses and the bloggers will step up their game in defending the masses. When I mean defending the masses, it's not all about defending illegality. It's all about standing on what Constitution says, this is this and that is that, not turning things upside down. So take your time and watch to the end of this interview for the purpose of this video. Thank you.
How would you describe the civil war that Nigeria went through 1967 to 1970? How would you describe it, Prof?
A waste, a total waste, a gross, costly error. It was an avoidable war. It was an unjust war. And I said so at the time, as you probably know. And I was appalled by the fact that we went to war so easily. I should explain that I believe very much in the right of self-determination. Otherwise, what was independence all about? What's the entire struggle for liberation on the African continent all about? If it is not about the right of people to determine their own destiny. And to find us fighting a war to preserve the demarcations inflicted on us by foreign intruders was for me an act of abject mental enslavement. It was surrendering our will and the readiness to go to war and lose close to 2 million people to preserve something which was imposed on us by total aliens. It was for me a humiliating fact. It was worse than a crime against ourselves. It was a denial of who we were as creatures of reason, of volition, of self-determination. It made nonsense, in fact, of what I considered we were. So, and the consequences are still with us till today.
I know you've met Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu when you met him when he was alive. Ojukwu, yes. Yes, the General Ojukwu. How would you describe him? Obviously, he's the one that led the Biafra war on the Biafra side of things. What kind of a person was he when he was alive? Your interaction with him?
Yeah. A mixture. He was very conscious of his class. I mean, he belonged to he had an affluent father. He was a business person. He was sent to the best schools for education. I can't recall whether he went to Oxford. I think he went to Oxford. And when he came back, we met as young people. He was older than I was, of course. And at the beginning, I didn't even like him at all. And that's before I went away. He was very class conscious, yes. Rich, wealthy. He drove a sports car. Me, I trundled along on my father's ancient rally bicycle. I remember very well.
Yes.
And we used to meet at the same area. We had mutual friends.
Yes.
But when he came back, and this happened to so many young people. You can have a very frivolous, uncaring youth, and an issue comes up, which will affect you, and there's a transformation. And so he definitely had a sense. He felt a sense of mission. He became totally committed, to the Biafran cause, and he tried to rise to that occasion as fast and as determinedly as he could. I thought for somebody with that background and with those challenges, he didn't do too badly. He made some terrible decisions, I believe. He also had to accept responsibility for the entire scenario, going to war. After Aburi, there was a chance that the country could have moved a little bit more apart, rather than stick with the kind of regimentation there. And all the leadership at that time, in fact, were culpable. But in my view, we on the federal side had a greater culpability.
Yes. So, I mean, you talked of the decisions he made that were terrible, sir. When you compare that to people like Nnamdi Kanu today, Nnamdi Kanu trying to resurrect that Biafra spirit, what would you say, or what would your advice to people like Nnamdi Kanu, the Yoruba nation, those people that are agitating for a split from Nigeria? What would your advice or suggestion be to them from your experience?
Well, the first thing I have to say is that I said at the time, and this was what got me into serious trouble, because they felt that by making such statement, in fact, it was singled out. By making such a statement, I was trying to demoralize the federal side and actively promoting the Biafran cause. When I said and I wrote, I said, you cannot defeat Biafra. And people thought I was merely talking of they took a very simplistic approach to understanding that. They thought I was talking about the battlefield, on the battlefield. Well, that was involved as well. Because when the people are determined, they are willing to sacrifice anything to preserve their identity. When they feel they are on a righteous cause, it's difficult to defeat them.
Yes.
If there's any, shall we say, military defeat, it's only temporary. The real issue remains unsolved. I mean, that's a lesson of history all over the world.
Yes.
And so when I made that statement, I was saying, the Biafra, that notion, that concept, and all that it involved, both antecedents and the present, and also, in fact, including the future, seeing what the people who are determined to go on their own, seeing what they could become. That is part and parcel of the cause. And when you have that kind of binding combination of different causes, it's very difficult to defeat them. And so Nnamdi Kanu represents that concept. He is one of the younger generation who inherited a burden of defeat, of resentment, and a determination, in their view, not to make the mistakes of even their predecessors. They have a new will, they have a new understanding of history. The only problem I had with was the language which Nnamdi Kanu used over Radio Biafra. I listened to some of it, very incendiary,
yes, and
also disrespectful, I thought, of even his own people.
I do agree with that.
The language, I don't want to go into details, but all you have to do is listen to it. So what is represented, in fact, I used a certain expression in recent contributions. What we fought for, those of us who stood on that side, we fought for a Biafra of conscience. And for me, that's very critical. And people like Nnamdi Kanu should not, or IPOP for that matter, or MASSOB, whatever, should not act against what I call the core of our humanity, yes, which is one of conscience. So yes, because for me nothing surprised me at all. In fact, it just surprised me that it took so long that what you might call the Biafra resurrection to take place in terms, yes, of consciousness. Nothing surprised me.
Yeah. Would you say there are similarities with the Yoruba nation and the way they've been treated? So, for example, you have the way Nnamdi Kanu was treated, or is being treated. Nnamdi Kanu is still in prison, DSL jail. Whereas you have the Yoruba nation leader, he was released a few months ago. So would you say there are similarities or differences to these two movements?
It's a mistake keeping Nnamdi Kanu in prison, I believe. To have, in fact, kidnapped him. There's no other word in the first place.
That's true.
He had a right to pursue his cause anywhere he wanted. He was never accused of physically bombing any place, or killing any place. Language, yes, was incited, no question at all about that. But you don't arrest, you don't kidnap people. Buhari seemed to have an obsession with kidnapping people. You know, that seemed to be his trademark.
Modus operandi.
It's like couldn't fulfill himself unless it put somebody in a crate and brought them back. And I think that, politically speaking, If they have any real charges against him, well, since he's in their hands, they should try him. All these technical postponements, delays, these tactics of just of avoiding the basic issue, for me, it's just counterproductive.